activist. He walks into the grocery store. He's like, "Oh, I'm driving my Tesla," and you're like, "Yeah, did you know it took 5 dead people to build your Tesla?"
Very true.
Realistically, but honestly, the one thing that I'm concerned about with Tesla, like I know it's a very new thing, but 10, 15 years down the road from now, I feel like the Teslas that you buy now are not going to be driving in 10 to 15 years. Hey everybody, welcome back. It's a pleasure to be back. Ambassador Di Pasquale, I really appreciate your time coming back on the podcast to talk to us about some current events.
Well, thank you, Chief of Staff. It's always a pleasure to be here with you guys and discuss what's going on in the world and the crazy world of politics that we encounter every day.
Awesome. And Investor Arnav, I appreciate you coming back. Thanks so much for your time.
Of course, no problem.
Yeah.
And we've got a lot of stuff to talk about because a lot of crazy things have been happening in these last few days.
And we're going to start that off with the Silicon Valley Bank failing. So can you elaborate on that a little bit? Because we know that you're kind of in that space, and I think that you're going to be one of the experts that can kind of elaborate the most about that. So can you tell us about what's going on?
Yeah, so to understand this entire problem, you kind of need to know how the entire banking system is kind of operated and how it works. It's kind of like a chain of command, right? And on our last podcast, we did go over, how the wealth transfer goes, right? And I kind of want to reiterate on that. And what we mentioned last time was it's almost a pyramid actually, right? And the people at the bottom are normal people like us, 9 to 5ers, or small business owners. And above these people, who actually controls them is the government, right? The government is who enforces the laws, who, executes the law, and who judges the law, right? And above the government are actually the banks, right? And now we can consider this as like a tier 3 problem, right? And we also need to realize who's above these banks. Above the banks are the the Fed. Okay. And so what's been happening is the Federal Reserve, they've been increasing interest rates for the past almost year. They started in last March, I believe.
What did they start at and what are they at now for interest rates?
We have to go all the way back to COVID times, right? Okay. So what happened during COVID was we had a pretty nasty crash, right? If you look at the S&P or the NASDAQ, they dropped almost somewhere in the 30 percentile range. And what that caused was almost the entire economy to shut down, right? And this is why Trump, he did not want to, shut the economy down, as a lot of, people in Congress are saying we need to close America down. But here's the thing: when you close America down, all the productivity and all the money movement stops. Exactly. And so to kind of get ourselves out of that position, what did we do? We lowered the interest rates, right? So where do banks get the money? They get it from the Federal Reserve, right? It's like a chain of command, right? And so if the Federal Reserve increases their interest rates, then the bank's rates also go up with them, right? Like your credit card in your pocket that you use every day, if you're not paying the full payment and the Fed increases the interest rates, your interest rate is also going to move up a little bit.
Yeah, because the bank's not paying for your ass.
Exactly. The bank doesn't give a fuck. They just want money, right?
Yeah.
And where I want to kind of go deep into is there's something called fractional reserve banking of what these banks do. So what that basically means is banks have to keep 10% of their deposits that people give them in the bank. So that way, whenever someone comes in and wants their money back, they have some sort of money to give to the client, right? But with the other 90%, you know what they do? They give a loan. They take your money and they loan it out to somebody else.
You know what? I'm going to chime in right here. At this day and age, let me tell you, I don't even believe there's 10% of our money in the banks anymore. Okay, because I know to go to a bank right now, and I believe we touched on this base already, just to take out even $5,000 or $10,000. It's like buying a house. It's like a big contract and a big ordeal to get your own money out. So my big question is, where is our money really at when we put it in the bank? Do they really have 10% of it in the bank, or is it all just shoved out and funneled out. And we really don't have none of our assets in the bank, really. We're just living on paper and plastic.
And is the bank actually a really safe place to keep your money?
Jerry,
That's
is it
what they say.
reliable?
That's what they say.
I mean, for me, it's not reliable because Wells Fargo, I had an account with them. They sold my bank account to a company called Flagstar about 2 years ago. I woke up and I opened up my phone and I had no money in my account. I was like, so how did I get robbed? Like, is this a thing? I called the bank freaking out. And
You should have called the White House and asked for Biden to help you.
Yeah, and they sold my information. And then after that really made me skeptical.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
This is what we're dealing with right now, and this is several stories I've heard from just lots of credible people, and citizens all over the U.S. that they try to go to the bank and get their money out, and it's not there. They got to make appointments. Recently, just now, I've seen it in the news and I've heard Wells Fargo. There's a sector of Wells Fargo, a section. I don't know what part of the United States it's in, where people are not getting their direct deposits to their accounts, and Wells Fargo is just telling them there's a technical glitch, to hang in there and they'll get it fixed. They'll show up. I mean, that's not an answer. I mean, you got people who are depending on their paycheck or direct deposits. They got bills to pay. Do you tell the banks to hold up, like, wait, I have a problem with my computer, I can pay you in 6 weeks?
The next thing you know, these lower class Americans that are living paycheck to paycheck, they're going to be using their credit cards because they have no money in their bank account, and then they're going to be hitting with the interest payments on that, and then their excuse is going to be, oh, the bank didn't have my money. The credit card company's not going to believe that, and then you're going to be fucked.
You got it. And but we know we don't have a problem handing out money to illegal immigrants coming over to this country.
It's terrible.
Our whole country doesn't have a problem funding them, giving them money, but yet there's people out there with bank accounts that can't get direct deposits.
Yeah, and we're already kind of slowly leading into a recession, and then it's not helping with open borders because more and more people are coming to this country, and it's overwhelming everything. And everyone's already tight on cash now that it is.
You got it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a whole chain reaction.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's getting worse because, so back to what I was talking about
Sorry.
the Fed. No, you're all good. And so what's happening is the Fed, the reason they're increasing the interest rates is to control inflation, right? And I don't believe I finished the 2020 story, but the gist is of what happened in 2020 is we had 0% interest rate. So that means every bank, every mom, every dad, every kid, what were they doing? They were spending money, right? Yep. Because we were getting those checks from the government, right? Because of COVID. A lot of people didn't have jobs. So what do? They went and they spent it.
Can I hold you right there? Mm-hmm. In 2020, I know you own multiple businesses.
Yes.
Did you get a COVID relief check for the small businesses?
Do you want me to start laughing you out of here right now? I didn't get any relief or any help.
Do you know people who did?
Yes.
Okay. And did it help them with relief, and do they have to pay that money back?
Well, the people that I know did pay the money back, and they used it for the right reasons and right causes and to keep the business supported during them times. But just over the past couple of years, I've read so many stories and I've heard from reliable sources about people that got these relief funds and used them for their own personal gain and didn't use them for the proper purpose. And that's what really upsets me right there. I mean, it's not credible what they did.
Yeah. All right, go ahead. I apologize.
So we did have 0% interest rate, right? And so what's been happening was because of all these checks, how did we get the money for these checks, right? It was all printed. So the inflation was through the roof, right? And that's why you see from 2020 to 2022, our stock market was up by 50% in 2 years. On average, in the from since the stock market's been alive till now, right?
So 4%. I want to elaborate on this with you and tell me what you think. So 4% of our currency is cash.
3%.
That's 3%.
Yeah.
If we keep printing cash and the other 97 whatever percent is digital, is that still going to be 3%, or would our cash ever go up to 4%? Because I feel like the digital money is just continuously growing and growing, but we're still growing paper money. We're still printing endless amounts. So is that percentage going to change?
I'll be honest with you. They don't print cash anymore. They to the amount of cash they print versus digital money. What do you think's easier?
Digital.
Cash.
You just push a button.
It's just another number, right? Who the fuck cares, right?
Yeah.
So, and here's the thing, they're gonna switch to CBDCs. right? Central backed diplomats, something like that. I forgot exactly what it stands for. I think you know what it stands for. Go ahead.
So on that subject about printing money, they can never stop fully printing money, but they can gear it like he was just saying about the digital currency. They can gear it all the way towards that. But there's always going to be a reserve of money printed. I mean, it's going to be there. It's what direction they want to go in. So as you were saying about, is it going to be 4%? I don't think so. I think it's going to stay around the numbers where they got it, but it depends on who's in office too. It depends on the administration currently who we have and who will come in and replace that administration and what they want to gear the country to. There's always ways to come back.
Good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, as I was saying, back to the Federal Reserve, the money printed, right? They need to be able to bring that down now because there's too much money in the market, right? And how do you bring that money down? How do you remove money out of circulation, right? What do? The Federal Reserve, they increase interest rates, which means when the interest rate is increased, that means whenever you make a payment back, you're also putting your interest payment in, correct? So
Correct.
The money that comes in, they don't put it back out there. So they're bringing money in, but they're burning it.
You got it. Also raising prices to consumers to exorbitant rates, gas, food, any type of goods to consumers. The more they raise the price on it, the more people have to pay out. And when they pay it out, the money gets circulated, but it doesn't go circulating back into society. They're holding it, just like kind of what Arnab said about it. You know, they raise the interest rate. You're actually paying higher, but it's not being circulated back into society again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Look, go to your grocery store. You'll realize they're moving the prices up when they should honestly be coming down now, because we've been raising interest rates and inflation is slowly, starting to cool off. We're not turning down as of now, right? And to actually look at the data points on this, there's something called CPI and PMI data. It comes out every month, and what the CPI data shows is inflation of every category, such as foods, rents, cars, all that stuff. It breaks it down for
So
you.
you don't agree we're entering into a recession?
No, as of now. So what you need to think about is we've been in a 14-year bull market, right? 14 years. That's green after green after green. So at some point, these people who bought stocks or houses 14 years ago, they're up huge, right? And at some point, it's all human nature. They need to take their profit, right? And so what's starting to happen is people are starting to get scared. Oh, interest rates are rising. Okay, let me sit cash. Like there's a war going on. There's a lot of the oil leaks in the waste leak in Ohio. There's just so many different things going on right now in the world, which is scaring people. So what are they doing? Sitting tight cash. So what happens when people sit tight cash? They're removing money out of the market, right? Which is causing the prices of stocks. Houses are slowly starting to turn down. Cars are starting to turn down, right?
Yep, I'm going to chime in real quick. Also, another big sign of it is in a recession is also our industry is gone here. So when you have a country with very high industry, whether it's automotive, whether it's oil, whether it's steel, whether it's farming, when you see all that slowly start to disappear, they're high revenue generators for the country. High circulation. When you have all these plants that are in operation, they're doing business around the world. They're doing business. We have industry here. When that industry is gone, it will slow the circulation of our cash through our society, through our country. So that's another big sign. And our industry is going. We have very little to no industry here right now. So if it keeps going in that direction, we have to rely on other countries for us to get goods, and the other countries can control us and then jack up the prices. We spend more on the goods. We just touched base on a couple of minutes ago. Then the cash is being emptied out into other societies, other countries.
Yeah, 100%.
And you want to know who got fucked the most out of out of this printing of money. It's actually a lot of people got fucked, but the big players were other countries, other nations, because all of our about the petrodollar. We talked about that in the last podcast, right? Make sure to go check that podcast out. But basically, all different countries' debt is basically use the U.S. dollar to pay debt back, correct? And what happened was the U.S. was printing money, so we had money coming in, but other countries, the U.S. dollar went down, so it's harder for them to pay their debt back that they owe. And for us, have you seen the $31 trillion problem that we've got going on now, right? So yes. Everyone's gonna have a debt issue, every country. So it's almost got to be a domino effect, right? And this is the starting stage, right? The bank closing down. This is shots fired. This is the first shot fired, right? We're gonna start feeling it now.
You're right, Arnab, on them, because we've given out so much relief money to different countries. I mean, we're just handing money out and handing it out, and there's nothing coming back in. So if you have a bank account and you keep spending all your money every day and not replenishing it, eventually it will end up declined. Yep. And that's what's happening to our country right now.
Sitting cash right now is the worst. Everyone says, "Hey, sit cash. Cash is king." It's not king, right? You're losing money every day. You're literally losing money every day.
Just like Tesla.
What
their cars are down 25%. What is it? How much are they slashing their car prices right now?
I think it was 8% last. Like I know the Model S is worth it's like 69.
Hey, I heard he's going to cut them to 35% soon.
So why is that?
Well, I heard that there's Elon Musk knows that there's a big grid and electrical problems, tech problems coming up in the future of what we had going on in the U.S., and he's pretty much worried that Tesla isn't prepared for it. So the high prices for them cars are being cut down. So when there are glitches and everything, they're more at a affordable rate for them to purchase and get fixed now, because it's crazy. I mean, if you got a Tesla right now and you got to take it in and get a battery for it, it's $15,000 to $20,000. Mm-hmm. I've seen stories on it. I've heard people, I've talked to them that own Teslas. And that's because why? And people jumped the gun right away. When these cars came out, they were buying them. It was the best thing out there. But nobody who was buying them thought, what happens when tech and electrical systems fail and grid systems fail? Or we have EMP, if we ever had one, what would happen? So
done.
The cars are done. Nobody planned for that. And I think Tesla knows that. And I think Elon Musk it's finally sunk into him that there could be a big problem in the real near future.
And I got to touch on this lithium batteries that Tesla has. I love the company, don't get me wrong. Like every car company I'm an advocate for, but when it comes to like Tesla and being fully electric, like people that are mining lithium batteries in other third world countries are dying. Like there's like teenage moms with their babies strapped to their back, and
I'm highly against that.
Yeah, and they're like hauling lithium. Like these photos online are so gruesome. And then there's like people that just like die in the lithium mines and they like walk over them. It's like crazy. And it costs more money to make a Tesla than it does for a gas powered car.
You know what? And it's so funny. Well, it's not really funny. That's the wrong term. It's unbelievable how these activists for electric, everything must be electric, but these people that are harvesting this lithium out of the mines, pulling it out of there, they're being treated as slaves. They're dying. They got kids over here doing that, but you never hear them activists bringing that up. Okay, they're worried about gas and coal and pollution.
There's an activist, he walks into the grocery store. He's like, "Oh, I'm driving my Tesla." And you're like, "Yeah, did you know it took 5 dead people to build your Tesla?"
Very true.
Realistically. But honestly, the one thing that I'm concerned about with Tesla, like I know it's a very new thing, but 10, 15 years down the road from now, I feel like the Teslas that you buy now are not going to be driving in 10 to 15 years. Software updates, they're going to be outdated. There's going to be new technology. What's going to happen when the lithium battery in that Tesla goes out? And then, and then it's outdated. They don't replace it.
Well, you just said it, technology. I mean, you see it with our iPhones or an Android. There's always updates.
You don't have your iPhone 1 anymore.
No, you can't keep the updates for these cars has to be done, periodically. And I don't think they're prepared to do all that. I don't think people have the time the energy or even the funds to do that right now in this day and age. And I think that's a big thing to think about. I mean, like I said, I'm for everyone making money, everybody opening a business up, good, business in the U.S. But, for this thing with Tesla, I just don't see it. There's a lot of flaws.
Thank God SpaceX is not electric. Thank God that they have actual gas powered engines.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, no. SpaceX is I believe there were some sort of rumors that he was gonna go public with SpaceX and some of these other companies, but not too sure about that.
Next thing you know, SpaceX is going to have their own little base in Antarctica, and that's where they're going to be flying. They're going to be flying their rockets out of going to Mars.
Yeah,
because everyone else is down there. People are flying over. They can see Chinese flags out there.
It's a big topic.
Can you elaborate
Antarctica.
on that?
Antarctica has been a neutral zone forever.
Why isn't it open to the public?
Well, it's been a neutral zone with the treaty. They had a treaty with Russia, so it's definitely a neutral zone. But neutral zone meaning, from what I know, for different governments around the world, it's a neutral zone for them. Basically, for
Testing,
for artifactual testing, to chemistry, just everything, what it's about. They use it for different types of evaluations, different type of science experiments, to test the ecosystem and other systems that we have around the world. It's like a center point for it right there.
Not only is it in Antarctica, but they actually have these small bases or laboratories in the middle of the ocean, like deep down, middle of the ocean,
like under the water.
Under the water, they've done this for years, right? You think Area 51's like that top secret? No, everyone knows about Area 51, but no one knows about what's going on in Antarctica. No one knows what's going under the sea.
Like, that's elaborate on that. I didn't even.
So, well, they've had a lot of. There's a limit on what I can say, but what I can say is they do a lot of testing where you don't want things being leaked to the population, the normal population, and testing on humans, testing on different types of environments underwater is top secret stuff. That like weapons testing too. They do that. There's a lot of weapons testing they do underwater, but there's a lot of things that aren't good that should not be leaked out there that is being done underwater and in Antarctica.
AK, can I get the bottle from you?
And we know Antarctica has a lot of artifacts, and just from recent discoveries, they think there was maybe a city frozen underneath of the current layer right now. So there's a lot of theories about what's going on in Antarctica, and I've heard there's a gold reserve could be there. There's tons of precious metals underneath of there. I mean, it's just all type of theories. So,
cheers, guys.
Cheers.
I appreciate everyone's time.
It's always great.
If you look on maps from the 15th century, they have maps of Antarctica.
Right.
It's like a lost civilization. And when you look at maps now, they're completely different, obviously. But it just blows my mind how detailed these maps were of Antarctica,
right,
than any other place on the planet that I saw. So I feel like there's a lot of stuff going on there that we just don't know. And then you're not gonna like this, but they want to bring the woolly mammoth back in about 2.5 years. And what they're doing is they're taking elephant DNA. And then they are taking DNA from a woolly mammoth fossil, and then they're putting it into an elephant. Insemination. And then they're gonna give birth to a woolly mammoth. They're gonna do it in about 2 years. And what is it gonna do to the environment when they reintroduce an extinct species? Like what did the woolly mammoth do back hundreds of years ago? Was it thousands? Like, how long ago has a woolly mammoth been extinct for?
A long
thousands?
time. Yeah.
The last
So
ice age.
how are they going to change the climate? Like what's going to be different about, like, are they naturally out of Antarctica? Like, where?
I don't know much about them, but I can tell you, technology today, you see what they're doing right now. They're going to bring it back. Are they prepared when they bring it back? Where they're going to live
put 'em,
at?
yeah.
Where they're going to put them at? It's a lot of factoring with doing this. So hopefully that company who's partaking in it, which I've read a little bit about. Like I said, I'm not too schooled on this, but I read they're pretty high tech with what they do. So I don't know the plans for it.
So how do you feel about hunting for sport? And let me elaborate on this before you answer.
Okay.
So let's say Africa. People in my family that I love very much.
Yes.
They go to Africa and they buy a tag to hunt
Okay.
an expensive animal. Like for instance, like a rhino.
Okay.
Let's say the tag costs $50,000, $70,000, $80,000 for the
Yes.
tag, but that money goes to the local government. And then on top of that, when they shoot that rhino, all of that the meat goes to the villagers. So like when you see like a taxidermy rhino, everyone's like, "Oh, you're a killer. I can't believe you're doing that for sport." I personally think there's push and pull. Yeah, like the rhino, like it could be alive, but at the same time, it's not a baby rhino. It's like a rhino that's like 40, 50, like about to die. Like,
Right.
You know what I mean? It's not like we're not finding the healthiest rhino out there, but I think it helps the villagers out. It helps the local government, and at the same time, like they do have their own control with the population of animals out there.
Yes.
And I don't think it's the worst thing. I want to hear both of your guys' opinions on that, because whenever I talk about it in DC, I get shunned.
So,
you know?
so my take on it, I'm okay with it, long as you're not hunting endangered species, and long as you're doing it, you're hunting the right way, and the way the law there is doctrine for you to hunt that way. You know that you're following all the specs of what they allow you to do. I don't see a problem with it, and I'm for it, especially if you're giving back to the community and to the government, and you're not.
It's not like poachers. I'm so against poachers. And if you poach, like
Right.
you should be in prison.
Yeah, I mean, I'm against that
Yeah.
too. But I think if you're doing it the right way, you're following all the laws and procedures they have enacted there, I don't see a problem with it. And especially if you're giving back to the community and you're using it as resources to help people there. So that's my take on it.
What do you think?
No, I think he said the same thing I was going to say, but what the issue is most people they hunt just for the resources, right? For the horns, right? The horn on his on the rhino's nose is I don't know exactly what it's called, but that sells for a lot of money on the black market. I don't know why. I think it's like very hard to find, but it's a very expensive piece.
Yeah, it's kind of like a fuck you thing. Like, oh,
Yeah.
I got this horn and nobody's got it, and I killed a rhino, so look at me.
Yeah.
It's like a big power thing.
Exactly.
I got
know.
you.
And so if that's the case, then of course it doesn't make sense to support that, right?
What's
But-
terrible with these animals too is, my dad he hunts for sport. Like he's gone to Africa and he's hunted some
Right.
exotic animals before, but sometimes they shoot these animals and like their tusks are already missing, and I'm like, wow, that is sad. You know what I mean? Like they have poachers out in the wild
Yeah.
that just they take what they want while the animal's alive. You know,
I think they shoot him with the tranquilizer, and then they
and
get
then
a
they cut
saw.
the tusk off.
They cut the tusk
Yeah,
off, and they
and
take
then the
it.
animal can't even fend for himself.
Yeah, exactly.
But let me ask you about this though. China's basically about everywhere in the world, but I don't hear about them being in Africa at all. Like, why don't they have power grid set up? Why aren't they trying to help this civilization, the communities out there? Because they're all about inserting themselves. You know what I mean? About
Yes.
inserting themselves into communities that need them, and then they end up trying to take that over. What's going on with that? Why aren't they there?
Well, basically what you just said, I think they have an agenda put together already, and they already have, their list of where they're infiltrating at, and the U.S. was a big, big thing to get into, as they've already infiltrated us already. Our industry's going, we buy from them, so I think Africa, eventually they could get to them, but I think their main goal was us, get to the U.S. because we are the center of everything around the whole world.
100%. So if you think about it, right, exactly what he said, they want to get to us, right? You don't go to the weakest nation, take the weakest nation, and then build your way up. If they take out the strongest nation, then they run the world, right?
They'll follow us. See, it's to follow the leader. as growing up at school, what a lot of kids did. And, it's always that follow the biggest guy, follow whoever's the most powerful. So if they get to us and get us under control, people around the world will look at it and say, oh my God, they got the U.S. We have to follow them. And people will just, and other countries will just fold into them. They fold into the biggest guy. And if you can it's like in school, you take the biggest bully down, you're now the guy or the girl. Everybody follows you.
Yeah.
So, Mike, let me ask you this: if you can, say what kind of regions these Chinese bases are located, like off the top of your head, where would you say they are?
Well, I can tell you right now, a bunch of them are very close to Washington State and Oregon and California. But I know definitely Washington State, Canada borders that, and there's bases right there doing exercises.
There's Mount Baker in Washington State. I actually climbed Mount Baker about 3 years ago, and half of Mount Baker is not even in Washington. It's on the border of Canada.
Yes.
You can just walk up that fucking mountain, and you can walk around the backside, and you can just walk right into America.
You got it.
They have a horseback. The horses can't even make it up there. That mountain is like 10,000 feet.
I bet.
Then it's all snow. What are you gonna trot up there with a horse? And they're
got it,
sir. You can't be crossing the border up here. You have
That's right.
Everyone they all look like mountain climbers because they got their backpacks on and they got their pickaxes. They're not gonna tell if you're an immigrant or not. They're just gonna let you continue to climb. Because everyone's out there doing it for sport.
Them bases there on our border close to it have been there for a while. The Chinese government's been doing exercises. The military, Chinese military's been doing exercises.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He mentioned copycats, right? And they're going to do the exact same thing. Like, look at us, like the U.S. We're in Taiwan, right? We have a huge base in Taiwan. So what do you think they're going to do? The same thing. So what they've been doing for the last 20 years, they've conquered like a good amount of South America. They've taken over. They've got power in Canada. They've got power in the southern part of Africa, right? Why South Africa? Because first of all, it's the south of Africa. That's where all the transportation has to go, right? For Asia, for India, and those in Australia, you're going around the Horn of Africa, right? So they've got control there. Cape Cod area. If you go there, you'll see.
Have you been out there
to Cape Cod
in that area?
Yeah. So a good friend of mine, he's from South Africa, so I do visit South Africa every summer. It's a great spot to go, to relax and release.
China likes to say that they want to ally with you, and really they want to just take you over. Yeah. So they use that term. They want to ally and be an ally, but that's not the end game with them. The end game is to infiltrate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, guys.
I want to touch up on
okay.
the banking situation, and we'll end on that because it's very huge. And today is Sunday, March 12th. Tomorrow is March 13th. So tonight the market opens. So you can kind of tell it's going to be a nice red day tomorrow as well. But what I really want to talk about is how the banks are investing they're putting all their money in one bucket. And that's what happened with this bank. And the gist of it is they basically bought long-term bonds, treasury bonds. And what happens to long-term bonds? So I kind of want to explain how bonds work. The earlier, bonds have a maturity date, right? You got 2-year, 5-year, 10-year, 20-year, 30-year. And so it makes sense to where the longer you hold it, you should be making more money off of it, correct? But right now what's happened is a yield curve has inverted, right? So what does that mean? That means shorter term bonds, like 2-year bonds, are making more, giving you better return than the 10-year bonds, right? And so what does that do for these long-term bonds? It depreciates them like crazy. Like, so if you bought them in 2020, they've lost their value by a lot now. And why is that? Because interest rates have gone up, right?
So you don't think, Silicon Valley, it's gone. Everybody that had accounts with Silicon Valley, what do you think is going to happen with them? And you don't think that's going to start a slow recession at all?
That's a great question. So what you need so what crazy thing that you need to keep in mind is the FDIC, right? What does the FDIC do?
They only back
insure
up to
your money.
250K though.
Yeah, only 250K. Here's something crazy. Only 2.7% of the holders in that bank had less than 250K. So everyone else had more than 250K, and they're not insured on that. And so what this bank did, the reason they were the 15th or 16th largest bank, 16th was because what they said was, we'll give you really good rates and we'll give you a good line of credit if you put all your money with us. So what do you think all these venture capitalist funds, the startups, what do? They put their money with these guys.
They took all of it.
Right? You know what this relates to? Same Bankman-Friedman with FTX. This is another situation, right? And it's kind of a similar situation, but a lot of these people aren't gonna get their money back. And so tomorrow, the Federal Reserve, they're having a meeting at 11:30 and to talk about what to do. Because here's the situation that that could pan out. A situation, it would be like if the government helps them out, like similarly to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, right? If they give them money to be afloat again, whose money that's coming out of? The taxpayers.
You got
right?
it.
And so, are the taxpayers going to pay for this? That's the question right now. And what do you guys think about this whole situation?
Well, I mean, I'm definitely on board about what's going on and been following it closely. And yes, as you said, the percentage rate, most of them have way more money than that. It seems like that the bank just took in all the investors, all the shareholders, customers of the bank, and they didn't have a plan or an exit strategy at the end. What would happen if the rates went up or the bonds went bad or the economy started to tank?
And the crazy thing is, last month, who do you think sold their shares?
The shareholders.
The shareholders.
Of course they did.
Because if you look through their quarter 4 earnings reports, you can see that their cash flow is dropping, the assets that they can sell are dropping. So, and here's the crazy part. So they've only taken a $1.8 billion loss so far from I think they sold about $22 billion worth of assets, but they haven't sold everything yet. They've still got a good amount of stuff left. So once they sell all of it, that's when the real losses are going to come in for them, right? And not only was it this bank that sold all of their shares, the Credit Suisse, the largest shareholder in Credit Suisse, sold his shares last week as well.
What's going on with FTX though? He's in prison, right? They found him. He was on an island and they apprehended him. So what's going on with that? FTX?
Yeah. You want to elaborate on it?
To be honest, I honestly don't.
Was it 650 million?
I think he had to pay a fine and he's off the grid. I don't think even if they send him to jail, you think he's gonna prison? You think he's gonna be in prison? Hell no. He's gonna put some other guy.
He's got too many names that he can bring forward. As we say, he's got the little black book, and if he's probably figuring, and I'm sure
just like Epstein, and then he's gone.
You got it. He said, if you want to play this game, I'll start naming names. So who really was behind this with him? Who really, protected him? Or
I think he was the face, but there's many more people behind FTX.
I think high level people.
Mm-hmm.
There always is.
I think there was a lot of. I think it was used for money laundering, in my opinion.
FTX.
Yeah, and you want to know who?
Could be.
United States and Ukraine. That's who I really think. That's what I think happened. But I think we should do a little more extensive research into this.
Didn't Tom Brady put like $20 million?
Tom Brady was an ambassador of the company, so he was really promoting. He was promoting the shit out of this, and he had no idea. If you watch the videos, you'll see how janky the entire business was. It was. I don't know if a lot of people are familiar with QuickBooks, but they use that for their accounting. Literally, people, if you've got over $10 million, you're not using QuickBooks. You need to have a CPA who's gonna go through this detail by detail. QuickBooks is not gonna work, and that's just crazy. That just shows you to what extent this was a joke. This was a joke. The business was a joke. That's what I think.
100%. There's more to that story, And like I said, I feel there's some big players involved, way bigger than him. He just was the face of it and the fall guy.
100%.
And things didn't go exactly how he wanted to. And I believe he has a black book with a lot of names in it. So there's a bargaining chip there. So as you can see, it's being played down.
He's also donated a lot of money to politics.
Of course he has.
You know what side he's on, right? And he was one of the biggest donors too. So
yes,
and if you look at his contacts, I believe he had some contacts, like high level contacts in the government. What do you think he's gonna do? Of course he's gonna tap into those. He's a free man.
He's a free man.
He's a free man, which is crazy. And back to the banks, right? It's the same exact situation with the banks. The banks are by default, right? Who do you in 2008? Who do you think gave them money to unfuck these guys? The government. We paid them, right? Because without the banks, the entire economy is a shit show, right? And so what happens is these bankers in the last 2 years, they were cashing in huge checks for bonuses, right? The banking industry, a lot of the money comes through bonuses, not the actual salary, right? And so the last 2 years, all these top bankers, they were making so much money. Now look what's happening. That money's gone. That's not in the bank anymore, right? And whenever the bank defaults, who pays? The taxpayers. It's a loop. It's the same thing that happened in 2008. And if you want to learn more about this, there's a really good movie that you should watch. It's called The Big Short.
Link in bio.
Yeah. And so The Big Short and Too Big to Fail. Those are two good movies that you should watch this weekend and inform yourself on what's going to happen. Because here's the thing. Let me drop a metric for you. Most millionaires are actually made during recessions.
You got it.
You know why? Because it's a fire sale. Everything's cheap, right? Everything's going to be half off, 40% off. Whoever buys real estate when a recession happens, they make over 300, 400% return down the line.
Well, remember the old saying, what goes up must come down.
Exactly.
And it will go back up again. It's a cycle. It will eventually go back up. You don't know when, but it eventually will go back up. It will never just stay down. So that's what happens.
You want to know why it always goes up? Because of inflation. They're only going to keep printing money. Because this time it crashes, okay, we're going to put out CBDC. Okay, cool. More money.
Tell me the day, though, when they're going to stop printing. There's going to be one day where we're going to be completely digital. So whether it's going to keep making digital money.
I think the digital...
How can you inflate the digital market when we have no longer cash?
Inflate it? You just put more numbers out there. So the inflation actually happens through the government. The government... They're the ones who's spending the real money. Like to all the companies that are connected to the government, like government contractors, like if you look at our defense companies, our medical companies, are like Ford and GMC Motors, they're all connected to the government, right? And so they'll say, hey, we have the government will say, hey, I have a contract. I need 20 Suburbans for security for the government. Okay, but they're going to overpay. The government always overpays. Why? To stimulate the economy more, right? And what that does is that drives up salaries, and when salaries go up, what do? They bring in more taxes, right? Why do you think, for example, feminism? Why is it nothing against that, by the way? But why do you think the government is pushing that so much? Because they want women to work. When women work, what happens? More taxes come in.
You have two incomes coming in a household.
Exactly.
But when it comes to feminism, though, we talked about this last time. Like, what are they really fighting for? Because they have the same exact rights that every man has right now.
You want to know the real reason? They want control of the future. So what does that mean?
Any
right?
individual person can have control of their own future
No.
if they want to dedicate themselves to it.
Yes, but to a certain extent. Here's the thing.
There are female corporate CEOs. I don't think they have exactly the same exact rights we have. What are feminists fighting for? Can you explain that to me, Mike?
Well, I think there's a big government agenda behind it. Again, whatever administration's in office at the time, it's a big push agenda to secure votes, to secure a lot of things that's going on right now in our country and other countries as well. So what I see it as, if most households, as we just touched base, they want two incomes. If you got two incomes coming in, you can tax that household the high tax bracket, which they do. now. What's going on? So, they put the two incomes together, then they tax more. And that's what happens. So jumping back to feminism, I think our government has a big agenda to push that, as we touched on in the last podcast about gender issues and stuff. If they can push them to get out, they can vote more, they can work more, they can push, and they can gear them for their agenda, what they have. And we see it every day, what they're doing.
100%. That's exactly what I think. But also to another level, if you've got two parents working in the family, where do you think the kids go? The kids, they go to school, correct? So who do you think controls the agenda in school?
Teachers.
What's being taught in school? Teachers. Who controls these teachers? Principal. Who tells what should be taught to the kids? The actual government, right? The county tells you. But who controls the county? There's standards, and they keep going down and down and down. And basically what's being taught to your kids is controlled by the government.
That's why my kids will be in private school.
Well, just think about it. If the two parents are working, when the children get out of school, they got to go to a daycare or an after school program until the parents come there. So they got more interaction with the school staff. As he just said, they're interacting more with them. Mm-hmm. So basically, the school becomes the parents. And that's what's happened in our society already here in the United States. The school has become the teacher, the principal, which they are, and they become the parents. They're actually parenting your children out here.
Next thing you know, in a couple of years, going to school is going to be unfair, so they're going to have to start paying students.
I mean, it's insane what's going on.
There's going to be kids not want to go to school because they're not going to get paid.
You got it.
And it's not just only that, but it goes to such a deep level. It's almost like I feel like it's a propaganda machine, just like Netflix, right? It's just a whole. If you look at it, like also online, I've been seeing things such as books in the library. They're very sexual. They're teaching kids things they should know.
If you have a gay pride flag in your classroom, you should be in jail.
Exactly, and
because that's a sexual flag. And if I have a child in school, I don't want them to see that flag, and I don't want them to even be affiliated with that.
Again, as I said, I have no problems with anyone, what they believe, who they are, but don't force it upon other people. School should be a neutral ground. They're there to get educated, not to be forced on issues and agendas and to change who they are.
Some schools don't even have the Pledge of Allegiance anymore, and the schools that do, 90% of the kids sit down and they just go on their phones. They don't even stand up and put their hand on their heart.
You got it.
And it really hurts because I was active duty, you were active duty. It just goes to show why we enlisted, what we fought for, and it just goes to show why people are taking things for granted and they're not being educated by the schooling system. And the people have it so much harder in third world countries. They don't even have a school in third world countries.
Well, you remember we used to watch current events in school. I mean, I remember in the morning, I went to a private school until my last year in high school, but our first, as soon as we got into the homeroom in the morning, they turned the TV on and we were watching, current events, what's going on.
I remember in school, we watched the Boston bombing happen. They had it on a projector and we were actively watching the news. It was insane.
You got it.
It was insane. And then now they're afraid to even show that. Yeah.
I mean, God forbid if they showed January 6th now in school, what happened then? It would be these kids would be they would be crawling out of there.
I will tell you this though. When I was in Catholic school, I went to a school called Detroit Catholic Central. My tuition was $10,000 a year. And this was about 7-8 years ago.
Sounds about right.
And I'm thinking the tuition now is around 15 or 16,000 for 1 year. It's almost doubled. It's about to double probably another year or two.
Right.
And I'm thinking that it's getting so expensive because it's for the protection of the mind of your child.
You got it.
I think the Catholic school, like my school that I went to, they're trying to preserve, the people that are there. So I'm thinking that they're having more of a higher cap limit on students, and they're charging more money for you to come to that school because when I was there, I had Holocaust studies. We learned about the Holocaust. It was an entire year.
Learn about history.
For one whole year, we learned about the Holocaust.
Yes.
Yeah, and then we had a whole current events class. Like every single day was a new event that happened. You know, in public school, they can't even relate. It's a brainwash system.
You got it.
Yeah.
It's to turn the kids against their families now.
Did you go to private?
No, I went to public school.
Okay.
But during my time, it was a good time. So I don't think it was any crazy agenda being pushed. But I probably.
Well, I mean,
tell.
this was years ago. This is completely different to now.
No, 100%.
You know what I mean?
We're in a new time zone right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Back to the college thing though. I believe college is honestly a scam nowadays. Just because in college and school they focus on memorization and they tell you, hey, like this will happen in Civil War, blah 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 blah. But you can honestly just search it up on Google. It takes 1 second, right? Like, who cares who's winning Jeopardy? Because I can search it up on Google or ask ChatGPT, hey, this is like, what's the answer to this? Boom. It's not about, I think the future isn't about what knowledge you have, but I think it's about the contacts and the networking.
College is going to change dramatically in the next year or two because of ChatGPT.
There's a lot of people not going. I was looking at the ratings now. A lot of people aren't signing up for college anymore. Just financially alone. You know, they don't tell you in there that, you know, the 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, however long you're here, when you get out,
You're in debt for 10 years.
you're in debt for 10 years. Yes, you are. And you have to pay all that money in student loans back, and you're not guaranteed to get a job when you get out.
So you want to know why college is a scam? The real reason is every year, right, college prices go up. If you look at salary versus college prices, it's parabolic almost for college prices. Why, right? Why? How can college prices keep going up? You want to know why? Because the government, right? I think it was a couple months ago, the government said, "Hey, we're going to pay off $20,000 with your college loans for free. And then all you need to do is apply." Right? So the government is promoting these increases, right? Why? Because colleges are like, hey, if the government's going to pay for this loan, why can't we just keep increasing the prices? So that every time a government pays $1, it's like a couple dollars, the price of college goes up by like 16 cents every dollar. I think that was the matrix. I'm not 100% sure, but that's the real reason why college prices are going up. The government is funding the increase in prices because these colleges think, okay, everyone still wants to come. Fuck it, we'll keep jacking up the prices.
You're right,
and that's how you make it even more exclusive. So there's so many random colleges popping up everywhere, left and right. Why? It's a great fucking business because they own the building of the school, they own the dorms where the kids stay. They own the cafeteria.
They're paying rent.
So they're
buying food.
Exactly. And where does all the
They're
transactions?
paying for education.
100%. And where do all these transactions happen? All on campus. They own the campus. They own everything. It's a monopoly, right? And that's
It's a mini city.
Exactly.
but there's no guarantees when you get out on how your life is going to end up when you get out of there. There's no job guarantees. There's no nothing.
A lot of kids now, they feel like that's a safe haven, so they can go to and they can feel like a kid again for 4 more years, and they're pushing off adulthood.
You got it.
That too, but a lot of kids they expect, on average, people are expecting 120K, like for CS, they're expecting 120, 150K out of school, but on average they're getting 80K max.
Yeah,
right?
because the money's not here.
Yeah, no money.
They can't pay it no more.
So it's all like almost false hope. I feel kind of bad, but there's nothing I can do about it, right? But that's what I feel.
They took away all the trade and technical schools here that we had. There's no more trade no more. You know, welders, plumbers, electricians, steam fitters. You know, I can keep going on. Longshoremen who, you know, operate cranes, heavy equipment operators, barbers, beauticians. There's no more. It's down so low right now. Trades and technical schools are down so low because nobody wants to take trades anymore. It's like a thing of the past now. It's hard to even find a good tailor now. I mean, they used to be everywhere. It's and the tailor that I use, he told me it's a dying trade. There are few far in between because nobody gets their clothes tailored anymore. They can't really afford it, and nobody's taking that trade up.
And you want to know something funny? Every single job or a trade that he just mentioned, that's something ChatGPT can't do. But all this doctor stuff, all the CS stuff, the engineering stuff, ChatGPT.
You can ask ChatGPT.
Yeah.
ChatGPT. You can ask how to perform open heart surgery, and it will give you a step-by-step
Of course.
list on what to do and how to operate open heart surgery.
I even asked it to write me an NDA and an LOI. It did it, no problem. So look who ChatGPT's replacing versus look who we actually need in the market, like the people he just mentioned.
Again, getting back to it, they want you to rely on the government for everything. So, right? No tradesman no more. You won't be able to call a plumber. You know, if your toilet's broke, you have to go through the U.S. government to get your toilet fixed.
They send out a U.S. government contractor.
Yeah.
The government, though, they're already starting to put restrictions on ChatGPT.
Mm-hmm.
Did you already know that?
No, I didn't. But I
You
heard
can't
about
ask ChatGPT certain things.
Really?
Yeah, within like 2 weeks, like you can't ask how you the people are asking how does the world end and all this shit, and it was crazy.
Yeah, I see.
And you can't ask it that anymore. It says sorry, I can't answer that question.
That's crazy.
Yeah, you can't ask it anything illegal. Like you can't ask it to build bombs.
Uh-huh.
It won't. It used to be able to do that. It won't do that.
Okay. Do you think that ChatGPT is powerful, like one of the most powerful AIs, or how do you think this is going to evolve?
There's OpenAI and there's ChatGPT. There's like three or four.
Yeah. Okay. I know, but ChatGPT is the actual, like currently that's the most platform people are using, right? So out of
Well, ChatGPT it paints pictures.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think OpenAI does that. So ChatGPT, you can ask it to paint a photo.
So OpenAI owns ChatGPT.
No, it
I think
doesn't.
you're talking about C3AI. C3AI is a different.
No. OpenAI and ChatGPT the same company.
So yeah, OpenAI, their product is ChatGPT.
I could have sworn they were different.
Yeah, we gotta cut this out.
We don't got to cut shit out. I fucked up. Okay. So what's the other company?
There's many companies, but one of them is C3AI. It's another AI company, but as of now,
all I know is that ChatGPT, you can ask it literally anything, and it'll also paint pictures. Like if you ask it, says paint Ambassador Trump DiPasquale, it will paint a picture of him
exactly
in the exact form and stance you want it to be in. It'll paint it.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It will generate a photo of him.
Who do you think owns ChatGPT?
The government.
No, like the actual owner though.
Who owns it?
Guess.
Bro, I don't know.
Tell us.
Elon Musk.
Elon Musk owns ChatGPT.
Elon Musk owns
That
ChatGPT.
fucking robot. That
Who
fucking
owns
robot.
him? Who owns Elon Musk?
The CIA.
I think this is a great place to end. And
Guys, thank you so much for stopping in. Thanks, guys. Have a great night.
It's always a good time.
Thanks, Trump. What's up, you filthy animals? Chief of Staff Spitler here. If you like the podcast, click the link above.